What's going on, party people? It's Shaggy here, and this is kind of another Starfield video. I know I've been away for too long, and for that I sincerely apologize. But I was waiting with bated breath for more ship parts to be released for Starfield. I thought they would come in the new DLC. I was gonna go nuts, and they didn't. I'm still a little disappointed, but there we go. In the background instead, I'm making my favorite ship. This is the ship that I take out. I set myself the brief to make a Starfield ship that looks or is reminiscent of an American muscle car. So this is my largely Deimos inspired hot rod. Shipbuilding. I think it's incredible. I think in this game that they have absolutely nailed that. Remember the little guy with the glasses and the goatee from the reveal video? He deserves a medal. This guy nailed it with bells on. Why, oh why, then, didn't they give you a reason to do it? Beyond the aesthetics, beyond the role-playing, just like with the base building, you do not need to build a ship. You can just buff up the frontier that you get right at the start, and that'll do you. On normal difficulty, that'll do you with knobs on. And then once you go through the Unity and you get the Starborn Destroyer, you're done. You don't need to do anything more. That's enough of an endgame ship for you right there. So, why? Why shipbuilding? It's so much fun, yes, but it's also a pain in the butt because you have to grind lots of credits to be able to do it properly. So, I'm kind of shaking my fist at it because that dude with the goatee and the glasses must be crying into his coffee because so many people are ignoring the fruits of his labor because you don't need to do it. If only there was a reason. So, again, why don't we have a reason to make smaller ships or a reason to make Class A, Class B, Class C ships? Because you don't even have that either. I mean, the criteria for a successful ship in the game, really, once you get to the end game, is grav drive and cargo space. Because there's ways around the ship combat. You can always grav jump away. There's very few mandatory ship battles unless you're doing certain faction quests. So you can just focus on grav drive and cargo, and it's a glorified handbag. What a shame. Why not have something that makes you want to do it differently, or a reason to have a ship built in a specific way? Like in the intro, there is a bit where you stealth towards a satellite so not alert enemies. You go really slowly towards this thing so that you don't, give anyone the heebies. Why not a stealth mission that demands a Class A ship that you have to avoid detection from these large battle cruisers that are around? Maybe you're carrying contraband and you've got to get from point A to point B without being discovered. And you need a Class A ship for this because anything bigger would be discovered. I think we're onto something. And while we're on the subject of things you do with ships, please give us space races. Oh, wouldn't that be a thing? There isn't a mode of transport in existence that mankind hasn't wanted to make go faster and race. It wouldn't have to be much. Even just one-on-one would do. 1 against 4 would be amazing. And, we've got so much story you could have with that. Racing drivers are amazing personalities. You can have cocky pilots. You can have sponsorship story arc where you get a megacorp to sponsor your races. You can have, the classic Rocky bit where, you're the underdog and you get asked to throw the fight to save face for the hero that's trying to win the race. All of that stuff is possible. And it gives you a reason to make your ship as fast as possible. Class A ships are faster and more maneuverable than the other ships. They get up to a more maximum velocity. So that's a reason to build them because you want that for racing. Just point-to-point, checkpoint racing, out there in space, you can do it. And it would be so much fun. And finally, why not have certain locations to be locked behind certain ship types? So, for example, there's a system that is inside electro interference or whatever, some sort of cosmic gas that Class A ship would just get torn to shreds. So you need to build Class C ship with like super shields to be able to go inside and visit this system. Or maybe there's a wormhole that is too large for anything other than a Class A ship, and you go through that way. You know, things that give you a reason to make different ships would be absolutely amazing. Sad to say, those aren't the problems that everyone's talking about. I mean, people's negative reviews are about other stuff, it seems. And how does Bethesda fix it? Well, I don't know that they can really fix this one. The problem's exploration. The problem's discovery. It is weirdly ironic that, for the first time in a Bethesda game, to my recollection, you are a member of an organization that pioneers exploration and discovery, except you don't explore and discover really anything. Because it's all discovered. The galaxy exists, and it has been codified, and the cartography, stellar cartography, is already there. You know where you can go. You can choose from the start to go to any planet you can grav jump to. So, yeah, what's to explore, really? I mean, they would argue that there are all these planets you can land on, and all these wonderfully procedurally generated landscapes with the handcrafted points of interest. But those handcrafted points of interest are the same across multiple planets. And once you've done them once, you've done them. There isn't really a lot else to do. And that's missing the point, because in previous Bethesda titles, seeing those little triangles, going for a wander and seeing the little map markers and thinking, oh, I wonder what that is, and walking that way and uncovering something you didn't know was there is key to the game. And it's one of the funnest parts of it. And it's really missing from this title, in my opinion. I mean, the destination in Fallout games was part of it. The things you found along the way were the king. You know, it would always often lead to new loot or new quests. You'd always be rewarded. And sometimes these places you'd never go to. They wouldn't be points of interest otherwise. They'd just be places on the way to other places. Think of like Jean skydiving in Fallout New Vegas. It's nothing. Or like Nipton Road rest stop. Nothing's there. It's just some stuff and you move on. But it's a location you can discover and you can go, all right, cool. And it adds to the lore. And things start getting described as being relative to other things. You know, for example, Helios 1 is north of Novak. The Guardian Stones are near Riverwood. It gives you a sense of positioning in the world. And that is hugely vital. It helps players invest in the land. You know, you get a sense of the geography of it. It is a lot more manageable. And you have to have gone to these places before you can fast travel to them. So you can't just go there from the get-go, off the bat, rather. You can't. You have to discover it first. In this game, everything is already discovered. So, yeah. Walking to places, also crucially, doesn't involve loading screens. So the experience of moving from place to place flows naturally. Too many loading screens break the immersion, and unfortunately, this game suffers from that. And it's the nature of space travel. So, for example, you're on a random planet, Venus, and you want to go to New Atlantis. So you have to fast travel to your ship. That's a loading screen. Then you fast travel to the cockpit. Another loading screen. Then you take off into space. That's another loading screen. Then you warp to Alpha Centauri. Another loading screen. Planetary orbit around New Jemison. Contraband check. That's another loading screen. And then you land at New Atlantis. That's too many, guys. But what are you going to do? You have to do the contraband check. So the taking off and the getting there and being in orbit, it all has to happen in that way for the game to work. But that means like 6 loading screens, where to get anywhere in a Bethesda title before was just 1. I mean, it's the nature of space. Space is, well, space, right? You have to allow the player the tedium, bypassing the tedium rather, of moving from place to place without flying through emptiness. I mean, that would be the worst possible thing ever. I think there's an episode of Rick and Morty where they have a super hyper realistic games console, and it's just that. Space is mostly space, so they're just flying through a blank screen. You've got to find a way to get around that. So they do that. The grab jumps, all of that jazz, they've done it. But it means loading screens. And you've already promised that everything is going to be planets by the dozen and galaxies and places and systems to explore. So this has to be the way. Do you make it like the Outer Worlds, or make it so there's more limited locales, and within those locales there's more places you can go and things to see? You can't, because that breaks your promise. You lose out on the scope. Do you have massive signposts that show where all your best content's located? Well, you kind of do. The quests kind of do that, but I'm talking about impossibly to ignore signposts like the content is here, big arrow. No, you can't, because you promised player freedom, and you can't reduce the limited discovery that you have even further. So do you just then try and flesh everything out? Every planet then has to become its own unique world with its own unique points of interest. You'd never finish the game. It would take you forever. The procedurally generated planets have to exist, because no one has the time to map them all. It's just not going to happen. So, what to do? Perhaps, some of the people have said this, perhaps it should have just been Skyrim in space. Forget offering people different planets. Forget offering different systems. It just has a large map, like Skyrim, large landmass on a planet, points of interest, and the backdrop is space travel, future. So you don't leave the planet. All your transport is through like a land speeder or a dune buggy, like Rage. In fact, this would be very, very close to that, just with a space vibe. You make your own dune buggy, you make your own lander, you add your own weapons to it so you can race it and run around in it. And yeah, that would have been fine, I think. You get all the usual faction stuff. They just don't have a different planet. They have a different part of the map. I think that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Everything gets reduced in scale. Maybe the DLC might take place on a different planet, or one of its moons of that planet. But the base game is all on one world, and you just move around that world. I think it would work. I think it would still be varied and fun, but that element of discovery would be restored, and you'd have that sense of wonder, that taking a walk. Not all who wander are lost. You just want to find some stuff. You want to explore some stuff. And it would put that back in the game. I don't know whether you can. I think, really, I'm trying to bolt the door when the horse has already left. But it would be nice to think of that. I think they tried that with the new DLC. I didn't actually get it, because there were no ship parts in it. Sorry, Todd. But yeah, and Skyrim in space like that would be very different from what was promised. So, I can understand why that didn't go that way. And, the vision that Todd had, they've delivered on that, which is a different game. And for better or for worse, it is what it is. I don't think they can go back on that now. So it will be interesting to see how Starfield 2 builds on that, hopefully captures some of that exploration and that feel for it again. So, yeah, beyond all of that, is there anything more tangible I can offer? Well, there's reasons to do stuff, I think, is my last critique here. I think there's not enough reasons to do stuff in the game. Like, you're never really, in other Bethesda games, like, forced down any particular road. But in this one, more than any of the others, the amount of freedom you have is staggering. And it's like a menu at a fancy restaurant. There's so much choice. And it's all in French, so I don't know what any of it means. And you end up paralyzed and unable to decide what to do. And, I can imagine the conversation with Bethesda guys now. You're like, you boot it up and you land and you're there. Like, wow, this looks amazing. This looks so cool. What can I do? And they go, anything you like. Todd Howard says, anything you like. I can't do his accent. I'm not even going to try. Okay, but what should I do, you say? You say, well, anything you like. And you're like, okay, yeah. I get that, but where do I go first? Anywhere you like. You know, yes, I have total freedom to go anywhere and do anything, but what should I do for getting the most out of this, for enjoying the gameplay that you put in the game? What should I do? And there won't be an answer because that's down to you and your choice and your role playing. But more signposting this game would be a lot better. Like, for example, you want to get to this place and see this stuff because it's amazing. More of that would be good. I mean, they kind of do that in other games a bit better. Like, things there's a few more breadcrumbs in places, and you pick up notes, and as you wander around, you'll get like little breadcrumbs some more. But you don't do enough wandering in this game, and you don't do enough standing around listening to people either to get those breadcrumbs. So I think there should be more signposting beyond the main quests. Like, there's some really good side quests. Just give us more that says, this kind of character wants to go down this route, or I don't know. I just felt like there wasn't enough of that, and I was so free to do anything that I thought, well, I'm kind of just going to end up doing nothing. Like in Skyrim, you want to get buff and tough like pretty quick. So there's a certain way you go about that, and then you want to get a nice house, so then you can build in that house, and that works. But in this game, like, what do you do? Do you build a ship? Do you buy a place? Do you do the quest line that gives you? There's so many role-playing opportunities. I would like maybe slightly fewer, so I know where I stand. I think let's liken it to Fallout New Vegas. There are certain key builds in that game, maybe half a dozen, that make the game viable. You can roleplay as other stuff, but you'll struggle more. And that's what I want this game to be a bit more signposty on. These are the 6 main ways you can play it. And yeah, they're crying into their coffee now because I'm limiting them, but that's the way it's got to be for me. I like a bit more like, oh, this time I'm going to be this guy, this time I'm going to be that guy, but not this time I'm going to be any guy. Or in Skyrim, is this time I'm going to be every guy. But yeah, that's what I'd like to see. Maybe if you've got a certain character type in mind, like a rogue, that there's a lot more roguey things than just the one main quest, and you can really roleplay that out, flesh that out a bit more rather than giving the player more freedoms. Just have few set paths and really beef those up. So that's it from me. It's been fun, right? I mean, Starfield is a great game, and I hope that it continues to get the love that COD has promised, and that it does continue to evolve. And I'm sure that in time, it will become the game that it wants to be. I still feel like this is the opening gambit, and there's way more to come, and I'm excited for the future. So yeah, here's hoping. Loads more ship parts, and I'll do loads more ship building. But for now, if you're done with my rant and my ramblings, then please do drop me a like, maybe even subscribe, who knows. And I will catch you next time. Many thanks.